Welcome to a powerful journey of transformation. If you're ready to unlock the hidden force that's been shaping your life all along, then you're exactly where you need to be. This is more than just a message, it's a shift in awareness that can change everything. And if you haven't already, become a part of our growing family at Neville Manifestation, where we turn inner power into real world results. What if the only thing standing between you and the life you desire is a quiet voice you've been ignoring your entire life? Right now, as you listen to me, there is a conversation happening inside you, and that conversation is shaping everything you experience. Not your actions, not your circumstances, but the words you repeatedly tell yourself in silence. Tonight, I'm going to show you why nothing has been working and how changing this one thing can shift your reality faster than you ever thought possible. My friend, tonight I want to share something with you that has the power to completely change how you see manifestation. This is not just another idea or technique. It's something so fundamental that once it truly clicks for you, you won't approach your life the same way again. I know many of you feel a quiet frustration. You've tried everything you've been told to do. You visualized, repeated affirmations, convinced yourself to believe, and still your desires feel just out of reach, always close but never fully here. You may have even wondered if you're doing something wrong, or if somehow this law works for everyone except you. Tonight, I'm going to show you exactly why that happens. And more importantly, I'm going to reveal how manifestation can begin to happen much faster, so fast that others may call it coincidence or even a miracle, simply because they don't understand the principle behind it. Let's begin with something most people misunderstand. There's a line that says, "In the beginning was the Word." Most people think of this as spoken language or sound, but the word I'm talking about is not something you say out loud. It's your inner conversation, the ongoing dialogue in your mind that never really stops. From the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep, there is a voice within you, commenting on everything: your life, your situation, your relationships, your worth. That inner dialogue is the real creative power. It is the force shaping your reality. Here's the truth many people miss. Your inner conversation is not just influencing your life, it is creating it. Every part of your current experience, your finances, your health, your relationships, the way people treat you, is a reflection of the thoughts you consistently entertain within yourself. Once you truly understand this, not just intellectually but deeply, everything changes. You begin to see how powerful you really are because you finally identified the real cause behind your reality. Let me share something that will make this clearer. A woman once came to me after a talk. You could see the exhaustion in her, years of trying and not getting results. She had been separated from her son for 3 years. She had done everything she could think of, affirmations, visualizations, even traveling to see him, but nothing worked. He refused to reconnect. After listening carefully, I asked her to look at something she had never paid attention to before: her inner conversation. And when she did, she realized it was filled with thoughts like, "Why won't he talk to me? What did I do wrong? Will he ever forgive me?" She had been repeating this inner dialogue every day for years. Without realizing it, she was continuously reinforcing the reality of separation. Her thoughts weren't just reacting to the situation, they were maintaining it. I gave her one simple instruction: change the conversation within. Not by forcing it, but by stepping into the feeling of already having what she wanted. I asked her to begin thinking like a mother who already speaks to her son regularly. To internally hear things like, "It feels so good talking to him again," or "I'm so grateful we've reconnected." Within just 1 week, her son called her. Not only that, he apologized and expressed a desire to rebuild their relationship. This wasn't luck or coincidence. It was the direct result of a shift in her inner state. When her inner dialogue changed, her external reality had no choice but to follow. Now let's go deeper. You may say you want something, like financial abundance, but what really matters is the conversation you constantly have about it. If deep down your thoughts are saying, I never have enough, or everything is too expensive, then that is the state you are actually living in. And that is exactly what will continue to show up. The speed at which things manifest depends on how consistent your inner conversation is. When your inner dialogue fully aligns with what you desire, without hidden doubt or contradiction, manifestation becomes natural and inevitable. Many people make the mistake of trying to control every thought. They try to force positivity, to monitor every negative idea, and to constantly correct themselves. This only creates stress and resistance. The real secret is not control, it's assumption. When you genuinely step into a state, your thoughts begin to match it naturally. You don't have to force them. For example, someone who truly feels wealthy doesn't need to remind themselves to think abundant thoughts. It just happens automatically because it reflects their state of being. So instead of trying to fix every thought, focus on becoming the version of yourself who already has what you want. Tonight I want you to try something simple. As you prepare to sleep, don't rush to change anything. Just observe your inner conversation. Listen to what your mind is saying without judging it. You'll begin to notice something important. Your current thoughts are a perfect reflection of your current life. Everything around you has been shaped by the story you've been telling yourself internally. This is why so many people put in effort, visualizing, affirming, learning, but see no results. Because underneath all of that, their inner dialogue is telling a completely different story. And that deeper conversation is what truly creates. If you change that, you change everything. Think of someone who wants to be in a loving relationship. They might repeat, I am happily married over and over. But if their natural everyday thoughts are, why hasn't it happened yet? Or maybe something is wrong with me, then that is the state they are actually living in. And that is what continues to manifest. But when they truly step into the feeling of already being loved and connected, something shifts. Their thoughts begin to change on their own. They start thinking things like, I love how we understand each other, or I feel so supported and happy. These thoughts are not forced, they come naturally because they match the state they are living in. And this is the law. Whatever state you consistently occupy will eventually appear in your outer world, always, without exception. So the question is not what you say you want. The question is, what are you consistently saying to yourself within? This is not describing some distant power outside of you. It is describing your own awareness, your consciousness, the I am that exists at the center of everything you experience. It is both the starting point and the ending point of your reality. And your inner conversation is the way you define what that I am actually means moment by moment. When you quietly say to yourself, I am struggling, I am trying, or I am still waiting for things to change, you are shaping your identity in that very moment. You are placing yourself in the role of someone who hasn't arrived yet, someone still searching, still lacking. And the universe, which does not judge or question, simply reflects back whatever identity you claim. The key to faster manifestation is learning to speak from the end, not from the place of trying to reach your desire, but from the feeling of already being there. Your inner voice must come from completion, not from chasing. Let's make this very clear. If you want financial abundance, you might say things like, money is coming to me, or I'm attracting wealth, or I'm on my way to financial freedom. These sound positive, but they still come from a place of not having. They keep your desire somewhere in the future, always approaching, but never fully here. Now compare that to the inner dialogue of someone who already feels abundant. It sounds like, I love how easily money flows into my life. Or, it feels good to always have more than enough. Or, I enjoy the freedom to choose whatever I want. Can you feel the difference? One is describing a journey, the other is describing a reality already lived. You don't build the journey, you step into the destination, and life organizes itself around that state. Some people resist this idea and say, "Isn't that just lying to myself?" But think about this carefully. What you call reality right now is simply the result of past inner conversations. Your current situation may feel solid and unchangeable, but it is actually just a reflection of what you have been repeatedly telling yourself. It is a snapshot of your previous state of mind. And just as it was created, it can be changed. Your outer world is not the cause, it is the result. Everything you see around you was first formed in the unseen, in the quiet inner dialogue you've been carrying. And since that inner dialogue can change, your reality can change with it. This isn't self-deception. This is understanding how creation actually works. Let me give you another example. A young teacher was assigned a classroom that everyone else avoided. The students were known for being difficult, uncooperative, and exhausting. Before she even began, her inner conversation was already filled with fear. They won't listen. This is going to be a disaster. I can't handle this. But after understanding this principle, she made a different choice. Instead of forcing positive thinking, she stepped into the identity of a teacher whose class was engaged, respectful, and enjoyable. Her inner dialogue shifted naturally. She began thinking, "My students are curious. I enjoy teaching this class. They respond so well." At first, nothing outside changed, but she stayed consistent internally. Within 2 weeks, things started to shift. Students who were once silent began participating. The tension in the room softened. By the end of the month, other teachers were amazed and wanted to observe her classes. It wasn't magic. It was a natural result of her inner state changing. And here's something even more powerful. Your inner conversation doesn't just affect your life, it shapes how people show up in your experience. When you think about someone repeatedly in a certain way, you are influencing how they appear in your reality. This is why it's said to think well of others, not just as a moral idea, but as a practical one. If someone treats you badly, look within first. What are you saying about them in your mind? Are you replaying their mistakes, labeling them as difficult, expecting them to disappoint you? That inner narrative keeps their behavior the same. A woman once struggled with her relationship with her mother-in-law. Years of tension, judgment, and emotional distance. And her inner conversation reflected that. She never accepts me. She always criticizes. Nothing I do is enough. She was asked to change only one thing, her inner dialogue. To imagine the relationship as warm, easy, and supportive. To think, "We get along so well. She appreciates me. I'm grateful for our connection." At first, it felt unnatural. The reality outside didn't match. But she stayed consistent. And slowly, things began to change. The criticism softened. Small acts of kindness appeared. Over time, the relationship transformed completely. Nothing about the other person changed first. The shift happened within. Now let's go even deeper, because this is where everything accelerates. Many people believe that manifestation takes time, that there is a waiting period before things happen. But the sense of time you experience is actually created by your inner conversation. If your thoughts constantly say, "I'm improving, I'm getting there, things are slowly changing," then you are reinforcing a reality of constant progress but never arrival. You are telling the story of becoming, not being. And life faithfully reflects that endless process. But creation doesn't operate in time the way we think it does. In imagination, everything exists now. There is no past or future, only the present moment. This is why the creative identity is always expressed as "I am," not "I was" or "I will be." So instead of saying, my business is growing, which keeps success ahead of you, shift to, I love running my successful business. Instead of, I am healing, say, my body is strong and healthy. It's a subtle shift, but it changes everything. It's the difference between standing outside the door and already being inside the room. A man once struggled financially for years. His inner dialogue seemed positive. Things are getting better. I'm working towards success. I'm slowly improving. But all of these statements kept him in a state of gradual progress, never full arrival. He was asked to change his inner conversation completely, to think and feel from the place of already being financially free, to say internally, I have more than enough. Money flows easily into my life. I am financially secure. At first it felt strange, almost unreal, but he continued. Within days, things began to move. Unexpected money came in. Opportunities appeared. Connections formed that changed his financial situation. It didn't take years. It began the moment his inner state truly shifted. Because once you change the conversation within, the world outside must eventually reflect it. Always. What people often call coincidence is simply the law in motion. The moment his inner conversation changed, his outer world had no choice but to reorganize itself in response. But there is something essential that must be present in your inner dialogue, or else your words will have no real power. That missing piece is feeling. You can repeat new thoughts all day long, but if they carry no emotional truth, they remain empty. Words without feeling do not create, they are just noise. It's the feeling behind your inner conversation that gives it life. When your thoughts are supported by a genuine sense of already having what you desire, that's when things begin to move. Think about someone who wants a loving relationship. They might say, I am happily married, but feel nothing inside. No warmth, no connection, no reality to it. Those words won't create change because they aren't alive. But when that same person truly steps into the feeling of being loved, when they can sense the comfort, the closeness, the emotional security of sharing life with someone, then everything shifts. Their inner dialogue naturally changes. It becomes something like, I love the time we spend together, or they always know how to lift my mood, or I feel so understood. Those thoughts carry emotion. They feel real. And because they feel real, they begin to create real experiences. Living thoughts create living results. Now let me share something that most people overlook, even when they understand everything else. The time right before sleep is one of the most powerful moments for creation. That quiet space between being awake and falling asleep is when your mind becomes deeply receptive. It's a doorway into the deeper part of your consciousness where ideas take root and grow. Most people use this time unconsciously. They replay their problems, think about what went wrong, worry about what hasn't happened yet. They fall asleep repeating stories of stress, lack, and frustration. And the deeper mind, which does not question or judge, accepts these thoughts as instructions. It uses them to shape the next day. In other words, what you carry into sleep becomes the blueprint for what you experience next. A man once struggled for years to get promoted at work. Every night he would go over strategies in his head, what he should say, what he should do, how he could finally get noticed. His thoughts were always focused on trying to reach the position, never actually being in it. He was told to stop all of that. Instead, as he drifted off to sleep, he began thinking from the place of already having the role. His inner dialogue became relaxed and natural, like, today went well, or I enjoy leading at this level, or I'm proud of the work I'm doing. Within 2 weeks, he received a promotion. Not just the one he wanted, but something even greater than he had imagined. What years of effort couldn't achieve, a simple shift in his nightly inner conversation did. Now let's talk about the moment that challenges everything, the moment when your outer reality seems to contradict your desire. This is where most people lose their progress. Not because they aren't capable, but because they misunderstand what's happening. They look at their current situation and let it control their thoughts. If things don't look right, their inner dialogue immediately shifts back to doubt. It's not working. Things are getting worse. Maybe this isn't for me. And just like that, they return to the very state they were trying to leave. You cannot let circumstances decide your inner conversation because those circumstances are only the result of past thoughts, not your current direction. If you allow them to control you, you're giving your power back to the past. Instead, your inner dialogue must remain aligned with what you've chosen, regardless of what you see. You must think and feel from the reality you want, even when it hasn't appeared yet. Because what you're seeing now is only the echo of what was previously believed, not what you are creating in this moment. A woman once chose to focus on perfect health, even while dealing with a serious diagnosis. She refused to let fear or medical labels take over her inner conversation. Instead, she consistently thought from a place of strength. Her inner voice became, "My body knows how to heal. Everything within me is working perfectly. I feel strong and full of life." She didn't force these thoughts with tension. She settled into them as if they were already true. Over time, her condition improved in ways her doctors couldn't fully explain. They called it recovery. But in truth, it was simply the law responding to her inner state. This is how it works, always. Your inner conversation, supported by real feeling, carried consistently, and held even when reality seems to disagree, that is what creates transformation. And once you understand that, you realize something powerful. Everything begins within you, and everything can change there first. Before I leave you with this, there's something important you need to understand. You must protect your inner conversation. The world will constantly try to influence it through news, opinions, statistics, and even well-meaning people who tell you to be realistic. Sometimes, the people closest to you will be the ones reminding you why your desire seems unlikely. But you have to be careful. Your inner world is not something to leave unguarded. Everything in your life flows from it. When you allow outside voices to shape what you are saying to yourself, you are not being open. You are handing over your creative power. I once knew a young artist who faced rejection again and again. Galleries turned her away, critics dismissed her work, and her own family encouraged her to give up. Everyone around her seemed certain that she wouldn't succeed. She had a choice: accept their opinions as truth or stay loyal to her own inner voice. She chose to stay loyal to herself. Even when nothing outside supported her, she kept telling herself a different story. She thought like an artist whose work was appreciated and valued. She would say to herself, "My work is meaningful. The right people will connect with what I create. What I'm expressing matters." There were moments when holding on to that belief felt difficult, almost like standing against strong resistance. But she stayed consistent, and over time, things began to change. Opportunities appeared, people started noticing her work. The same critics who once rejected her began to see value in what she created. Her talent didn't suddenly change. What changed was her inner conversation, and everything else followed. Now bring all of this together into one clear truth. The way you talk to yourself is shaping your identity every single day. And that identity determines exactly what shows up in your life. When you truly understand this, not just as an idea, but as something real, you stop feeling controlled by circumstances. You stop depending on other people's opinions. You stop feeling powerless in situations you didn't choose. You realize that your inner conversation is the only place where creation begins. What looks like a solid, unchangeable world around you is actually just a reflection of what has been happening within you. The people in your life respond to the assumptions you carry about them. Even time itself, the speed at which things happen, is influenced by whether your inner dialogue speaks from already having or from still waiting. The practice itself is simple. Not always easy, but simple. Start tonight. Don't wait for the perfect moment or more preparation. Just begin. First, listen. Pay attention to your real inner conversation, the one that runs quietly in the background. Not the version you try to control, but the honest one that shows you what you truly believe. Notice it without judging yourself because it's not your enemy. It's just something you've been using unconsciously. Then gently shift. Step into the version of yourself who already has what you desire. Don't force the words, feel the state. From that place, let your inner dialogue flow naturally. Let it sound like real life. Let it feel normal, familiar, and alive. Stay with it, protect it. Don't let circumstances or other people pull you back into the old story. And trust this completely. The outer world will always, without exception, reflect what is happening within you. What you've heard here is not new. It's something ancient, something that has always existed. But its power is still just as real right now as it has ever been. Your inner conversation is shaping your reality in this very moment. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, right now. So use it wisely. Use it with awareness. Use it with intention. In the end, there is no one else to change but yourself. And you change yourself by changing the quiet, constant conversation you have within your own mind. Change that, and everything in your life begins to change with it. Your belief, your inner conversation, will always deliver what you consistently hold within. It cannot fail. That is the law. And that is the promise. This is Neville Manifestation. I'll see you in the next one. The life you're waiting for isn't blocked by the world. It's shaped by the voice within you. The quiet thoughts you repeat daily are either building your future or holding you back. When you learn to shift that inner dialogue, you don't just change your mindset, you change your direction. Everything begins the moment you choose to speak to yourself with belief instead of doubt. And that moment can be right now.